to Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd, and seated next to me we have the adorable and effervescent Professor Aubrey.
Well, hello there.
Yes.
Quite an endorsement.
Quite the endorsement, yes. 7 out of 10 doctors agree.
Yes.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now available without a prescription.
Like a Roxanne. Yes. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that they have something like that that's over the counter now, but a Roxanne for
the name
an erectile dysfunction medicine, man.
Have you seen their font that they use for Eroxon?
No. Is it anything like the Exxon or it has to be manly, right? Something that would have been like on Spike TV back in the day.
It's this weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's weird.
It's like two twist ties put into an X.
Roxanne.
Yeah. Get your rocks on. Yeah. America, USA.
Get your Roxanne. It's $32.
Well, good Lord. I mean, that better come with like $32 of the best.
It's a fast-acting gel.
Ooh, a gel. It's like Popeye. I'm sure with the vocal isolation, you didn't even hear that sound effect from me, and you probably don't need it anyway. But anyway, this week, we're going to be talking about music, but kind of in a sentimental way. What we want to talk about this week is something that I don't think we've really talked about too much in depth before, and that's music that we've come to appreciate from each other. Music that, before we entered each other's lives, we would not necessarily had listened to, but because we are now intertwined in life and all that stuff, we've listened to the music and have come to enjoy it and have great memories associated with it.
Absolutely. So I'm very interested to hear what songs I have contributed to your playlist.
Yes, and I am definitely quite interested to hear the reasoning behind yours. I mean, obviously, in preparation for what we do here, we do make each other aware of the choices that we're going to talk about, unless the surprise is worth the wait, So I will start off with my number one, and this is one of the first songs I remember hearing you play on guitar. And this was, and I'm going to butcher this name, and I apologize in advance. And if there's anybody out there that knows the correct pronunciation and wants to coach me on saying it the right way, I will gladly take that. But I assume an Hawaiian band, or at least Pacific Islander somewhere. Ka'au Crater Boys, from their album The Best of the Ka'au Crater Boys. It's K-A''AU, and I know that there's usually a split somewhere, but I have a feeling I pronounced that quite wrong.
It's possible.
Yeah. But anyway, the song in question was a song called Guava Jelly.
That's right.
Yes, and it was a song that you were playing a lot when we first met. How I was introduced to how you play the guitar as well. You're not like a John Lennon or a Paul McCartney type where you just stand erect and just play the guitar, la 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 la. You're quite expressive. It's like you're doing ballet along with the guitar as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. She's like, "Are you a stalker?" But it's a simple kind of, I mean, it has a reggae type of feel. Initially, I did assume that this song was one that was written by Bob Marley. Bob Marley has a song of the same name, but you said the Marley version is not the song that the Ka'au Crater Boys have put out there for the world. But what attracted you to this song? Why did you first start playing it?
Well, it was because I went on a trip to Hawaii at the very beginning or somewhere in the pandemic. And in Hawaii, you can get, locally made guava jelly, which we did and which was delicious. So then when I got back from Hawaii, it was like I wanted something to remember Hawaii by. So I learned that song. Of course, I unlearned it. Like, I've forgotten it now.
Yeah, and you're like, thanks, Tim. Make me feel guilty. Yeah, but the chorus, rubbing on your belly like guava jelly and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. I just remember how you would dance a little more when you sang that, and just how you delivered that. A lot of good memories there. A lot of good memories.
Oh, that's very kind.
All right. Well, how about you dive into your first choice here?
Okay, so this one is, what I think of as the song of any that you turn me on to that has become actually a really important song for me. And that is She Makes Me Laugh by the Monkees from their album Good Times. Just a wonderful love song, a tribute to someone who makes the singer laugh. But especially when you were not living in Portland, I just associated this song with you so much that if I happened to hear it, I just, definitely would think of you.
Oh, definitely one hell of a great song. A lot of great memories there too. This was the album that they did after Davy Jones died. The three remaining members got together to make this, and they enlisted the help of singers and songwriters who were fans of their work, and just like in the '60s, wanted to write a song for the Monkees. And this song was written by a guy named Rivers Cuomo. Are you familiar with him?
Mm-mm.
Have you ever heard the song "Ooh Wee Ooh, I Look Just Like Buddy
Oh,
Holly"?
yeah.
Yeah, Weezer. He's the lead singer and lead songwriter for Weezer.
Oh, okay.
So he's the one that came up with that, and like again, this album came out in 2016. The remaining members were in their 70s at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Mickey Dolenz sang this, and this sounds exactly like something you would see on the Monkees TV show from the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just amazing vocals, like someone that age. It is a crime in a lot of ways that he still sounds that good. There are other people that have had far more financially successful music careers that wish they had the strength of Mickey Dolenz's voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just one hell of a delivery. And, it was one of those songs that, songs can make you think of people. And this is one of those songs that when I heard it, it was like, that's Aubrey. Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I just really like it.
Well, good. Well,
Yeah,
then how about I go on to my next one?
that sounds great.
All right. I've talked about this before on a few occasions. Also, I talked about it in terms of it being this person being one of the artists that kind of made me realize that I did have a lot more Southern bias than I thought. Emmylou Harris,
Mm.
from the Elite Hotel album. It's her cover of Together Again. Because when I was not living in Portland, Oregon, I was thinking of Portland, Oregon, and then when I knew I was coming back on the bus trip from Maine to Boston to Logan Airport, I just had this song on repeat the whole time. I was like, I'm going back home, yay! I'll be
Yay!
together again with the professor, yay!
Oh,
But what did you like about this song?
about
Or her in general. Maybe you're not a fan of this particular song, but obviously you were a fan of hers.
yeah, absolutely. And she was someone that my parents liked, and so I grew up listening to albums of hers. And I think anytime you listen to someone's albums, as a general rule, you get to know their music a little bit better. So she's just got an amazing voice. She's an amazing, singing and songwriting talent.
And it was, me taking the time to actually dig deeper after finding out you were a fan that I found out her connection to Graham Parsons.
Right.
Graham Parsons was a figure in music history that I was aware of for long before that. I just didn't dig enough to find out of his connection with Emmylou Harris, and then finding out that Emmylou was not your typical Nashville country star, because there is a stereotype that they have. That stereotype can change over the decades, but there is still a stereotype. But she came into country music as kind of like a scholar. I mean, she came from folk music, and we've talked about that in the Dylan episode, to where folk musicians will dig a little deeper into the history of songs and of the singers and songwriters that originally came up with them, to get a more broader context in which to convey the emotions they want to convey to their audience.
Yeah.
And she's got quite the voice, and anybody that gives love to Buck Owens is A-OK in my book.
Well, and she's just stayed so relevant. Like, she's still quite relevant in doing projects today with the most active people in show business.
Yeah. And do you know her connection to Pantera?
No.
The father of Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, the lead guitar player who unfortunately was murdered on stage by a crazy fan, and the drummer of Pantera, their father was, they grew up in Texas. Their father was a music producer and wrote the song Play Together Again. That was a duet with Buck Owens and Emmylou Harris.
Oh.
So that's 6 Degrees from Emmylou Harris and Pantera.
Yes. Well.
All right. With that, with that wonderful trivia, how about you dive into your next choice?
Okay. My next choice is Me and Magdalena, also from the Monkees, also from the album Good Times. And as you said, this is the album that they made. The three of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mike, Mickey, and Peter. The album does have, I believe, at least one, maybe two tracks from Davy Jones, but they were tracks that he was working on before his death, and then the remaining members added, the music to it.
And I love this song. It's very evocative of driving along California 1, right on the rugged coastline of California. And talks about valleys. Like, California, for me, is all about valleys coming off the ocean, and between there and the Sierras, like, it's just a bunch of little valleys. And so, it just makes me think of Southern California.
Well, the Monkees definitely were, when they were filming the show and recording the albums for the show, they were based at, they did that in Los Angeles, and they famously lived mostly in the Laurel Canyon neighborhood with tons of other musicians. I'm sure you already know this, but there was a young singer that auditioned for the Monkees but did not get the part, and said, "Hey, I got this friend of mine, Peter Tork. I think he'll be great." And Peter ultimately got into that band. That friend was Stephen Stills.
Oh, right.
And actually, Stephen Stills, Neil Young, and other big-time musicians have actually played on Monkees records. Neil Young played some guitar as a session musician for the Monkees.
Wow.
At one point. But this song, Me and Magdalena, this is one that kind of had to grow on me, and it was the repeated exposure from you listening to it that, where I was like, okay, I get it now. Written by Ben Gibbard. I believe you're...
Oh, I love Ben Gibbard. Oh my God.
Yeah. Your reaction every time. like a 15-year-old girl's, "Oh, Davy."
Ben Gibbard.
Yeah. But, I believe he's the lead songwriter and singer, I guess, from Ben Folds 5? Or some group, right?
Not Ben Folds 5.
You're like, how dare you, Tim? Don't besmirch my Gibbard.
I keep wanting to say Thievery Corporation, but it was two bands. Oh, Death Cab for Cutie.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Cab for Cutie.
Death Cab for Cutie, and then he was in another band that I can't remember the name of, but I love Ben Gibbard.
Yeah, and this album here, this is a beautiful beautiful vocal harmonies between Mike and Mickey. Just they sang so well together, and if you know even the slightest bit of history of the Monkees, you know that they didn't always necessarily get along, but this was kind of like their victory lap, and it was great to see this album go really high in the charts in 2016. Who would have thought the Monkees would still have enough people, interested in getting their work? But just what a beautiful song. I think it is one of those songs, too, that if I were like 21, I don't know if I would necessarily get it.
Mm-hmm.
It does have that melancholy, daydreaming of the past type feel that if you are younger, you're not necessarily going to get, but just a beautiful piece, definitely goes up there, in my opinion, with some of the best work the Monkees put out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's more mature music from the Monkees than maybe from their younger days. And it's not at all surprising to hear that they had conflicts because they were sort of thrown together and like forced to be together constantly.
Yeah, you had Mike, who is country rock. You had Peter Tork, firmly in the folk rock scene. You had Mickey, who was like, not necessarily a musician, but he did play in some garage bands.
Hmm.
And then Davy Jones, Broadway actor. I mean, Davy Jones was in the cast of Oliver, and the cast of Oliver actually played on the Ed Sullivan Show of the day that Beatles debuted.
Whoa.
So yeah, and even though there's a lot of people that still kind of badmouth the Monkees, like all of their contemporaries, like the Beatles themselves, the Who, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, all came out and have said great things about the Monkees and say that they are great musicians.
Hmm.
So if you are sitting on the fence about enjoying the Monkees, don't. They got a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, and maybe checking out that particular album,
Good times.
Good Times, would be a good place to start if you aren't familiar with the Monkees.
Agreed. But how about I dive into my next choice?
Yes.
This artist here is definitely one that if you are a fan of rock music, you are going to be aware of him, even if you haven't really heard his stuff or not. He's definitely up there in the pantheon of, pioneers of the rock sound, but the fact that he did die so early in life, I think, unfortunately, muted his legacy, if that makes sense. Even though there are tons of musicians who are definitely inspired by this particular artist here. Like among casual fans, more people are going to be like Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and stuff like that, and they're not going to talk about Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Easily, I think, far more influential than someone like Elvis. Mainly because Buddy Holly and the Crickets were the one big rock group at the time that were primarily writing their own songs.
Hmm.
They did covers. Everybody does covers. There's nothing wrong with doing covers, but unlike Elvis, unlike some of the other major rock artists of that time, he was writing and singing his own music, and it was also inspiring tons of people. Like I said, like the reason the Beatles have the name the Beatles, it was kind of a goof on the Crickets name. And if you listen to a number of the early Beatles albums, they cover plenty of Buddy Holly songs, but the one I picked here is one that became one of the Rolling Stones' first hits, a cover of Not Fade Away, but I chose the original here from the album The Chirping Crickets, Not Fade Away. And if you listen to the Stones version and Buddy Holly's version, they do sound remarkably the same in terms of intensity, volume, and all that stuff. But just I've slept on him a lot longer than I should have. And it was you listening to like the Buddy Holly Lives Greatest Hits album that was like I should listen more.
Yeah, it's interesting. This was the recessional song at my wedding. The the march down the aisle was oh my God, I can't remember now.
So memorable, right?
So memorable. Dearest, which is very rare. Like it wasn't a hit, but it's really good. Dearest by Buddy Holly. Yeah, such tragic figure. The music is so good.
Yeah, and we have him to thank for helping one Waylon Jennings start off early in his career, because the original Crickets did end up breaking up, but like Jimi Hendrix, after the Jimi Hendrix Experience broke up, Buddy Holly soon had a new band, and a young Waylon Jennings was the guitar player, and I think that kind of shows too why Waylon Jennings was like he is, like he was. Obviously he's passed away, so I can't use the present tense anymore. Tim, grammar counts. But yeah, I mean, Buddy Holly is definitely a legend, and it's just unfortunate that Don McLean American Pie song is what is memorializing him. I hate that song so much.
Yeah, me too. I really hate that song. And yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I have not seen the Gary Busey Buddy Holly story movie.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's one of my favorite of those biopics from the 90s that I thought were so good.
That was released in the 70s.
No,
Yep.
I watched it in the 90s, I guess.
Okay. That's when it debuted.
Well, that's why, kids today,
Hmm.
which I always make myself stop talking whenever I say that. But you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
kids today.
Well, if you don't have anything more about Mr. Buddy Holly, how about you dive into your next choice?
Oh, I was just going to mention that probably the most famous or the one that I've heard of the most, the cover of this song, because it's been covered by so many different bands, is by the Grateful Dead, who played it at almost every single show.
Hmm. If you do some searching, there is video of Waylon Jennings' appearances on Late Night with David Letterman, and one of them was a musical montage that Waylon did of all Buddy Holly songs.
Oh.
Really, really good to watch that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, let's go on to my next one.
Your number 3?
Which is not a Monkees song, but is a Motörhead song. Ace of Spades, off the album by the same name. This is one of your favorite songs, I think. And Motörhead's your favorite band. One of.
Yeah, I don't have one.
Right. But it's one of.
One of, yeah.
And I never thought, I just never thought I would ever listen to a Motörhead song. I was only vaguely aware of who Motörhead was.
You're like, is Lemmy some sort of STD?
I'd heard of Lemmy actually more as a cultural icon than the music. But anyhow, when I met you and I sort of would hear this music on your playlists, it's kind of snappy. It's kind of memorable.
Yeah, like Lemmy. I've used this analogy before. Lemmy is to metal what the Ramones were to punk rock. Motorhead, unfortunately, didn't sell a lot of albums, but most of the albums they sold ended up inspiring tons and tons and tons of people. Ace of Spades, just one hell of a intense, fun song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got that posturing stuff that I like too, in terms of, you can imagine a character singing this. And I remember they actually sang this on that old British comedy, I think they called it The Young Ones. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember in that I know it existed.
Yeah. They had a point to where they were like, "Oh, we got to go to this TV studio to film this like college debate game show type of deal," but then they cut to a montage. But one of the characters goes, "Cue the music," and then it's Motörhead in their apartment playing Ace of Spades while the 6 guys, do their best to go to the TV station in comedic ways or whatever. And just Lemmy was awesome. Jimi Hendrix, he was Jimi Hendrix's guitar roadie in England. Just long history and just a great songwriter as well. In fact, Lemmy was responsible on Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears album for, writing a number of songs on there, including Mama, I'm Coming Home.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that was probably one of the best songs on that album.
Definitely.
It was definitely a breakthrough hit for Ozzy.
One of many on that album. I mean, that is the No More Tears album is, I feel, is going to be on most people's top 5 of any musical output that Ozzy Osbourne ever put out.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Lemmy to help thank for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also too like one of those fun types of songs that you play in the background if you're doing chores, because it can get you energized. Like if you're listening to Nobody Knows the Trouble I've seen while you're doing chores, then maybe it will feel a lot slower. But this like it's fun. It's a fun song.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. How about I go on to my next choice?
Sounds good.
All right, this is another guitar choice that I've heard you sing. I don't know if you initially picked up and started playing this song because of this version or the George Harrison version, but it's the song called If Not For You by Bob Dylan off the New Morning album. Like I mentioned, George Harrison does have his own version of the song, which I believe was on the All Things Must Pass album.
Mm-hmm.
But just while not my absolute favorite Dylan song, like I came to appreciate it because of, the interpretation you gave when you would practice it.
Mm.
Just thinking of how, your vocal delivery when you were doing it and just the light, chirpy way you were doing it, how you would sort of dance when you were, playing that particular song. But why that song for you? Why did you like that song? Why did you want to learn to play it on guitar?
Well, it was definitely from Bob Dylan that I knew the song. I was way into Bob Dylan, as we've talked about on the show. Not so much George Harrison at the time. My appreciation for the Beatles as individuals was certainly something that came later than my exposure to the Beatles
Mm-hmm.
as a group, or in this case, Bob Dylan in one of his incarnations, right? And I think I got to know it through the lyrics book that I had. And a lot of Bob Dylan songs I know more as written poetry than as music. And then when I hear the music, and I'm like, oh my God, like when you experience something without music and then you add music to it, it just makes it so much of a richer experience. So, like, if I had already decided I liked those songs based only on the lyrics, and then the music comes and it's wonderful as well.
So, to use the Shakespeare comparison again, it would be like you reading the script to Hamlet and then seeing a performance of Hamlet and just like, whoa, that's why it's great.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was someone like me who doesn't really have the imagination for something like imagining Shakespeare plays in their proper sets and locations. I wasn't good at that either.
But what I'm talking about is that you as a fan were able to get a much richer experience from it than just reading, in this case, the lyrics alone. Hearing his take on how he delivered it, I'm sure gave new insight as to why the words were used in the way they were in that particular song.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot more information.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I definitely enjoyed you playing it that much, is for sure. So.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. If you don't have anything else to say about that one, how about you dive into your next choice?
Okay, my next choice is Holy Diver from Dio. Dio I had heard of before, mostly through Tenacious D, who's big fans of Dio, and actually had Dio performing in The Pick of Destiny as a poster come to life in Jack Black's room as a child. Super great. But this is such a good song, and he's such a great singer. Like, oh my God. And this was the song where I kind of realized who he was and that it was actually really good.
It's not garbage. Yay. Dio is one that I did sleep on for the longest time. If you watch the Holy Diver video, it's kind of cheesy. Like he had to have been what 5'2", and yet in the video, this short little squatty guy with like a receding hairline and a mullet is taking out a sword, and he's got a hairy chest. He's like really small. It's like holy diver. But for me, what ultimately made me realize that I was a fool was when they announced his death. They started, they would, have on the news like little song clips of songs that he did, and they played Neon Nights from when he was in Black Sabbath, and I was like, fuck. I missed out. So that's when I started doing the deeper dive into Dio's music. Also saw a great documentary that is currently on Showtime about the life of Dio, but I didn't realize that he got to start in doo-wop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the first group he was involved in like the late 50s, early 60s was in some ways kind of like Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons
Oh, uh-huh.
type of deal. And then later on is when he would make the transition to harder stuff. But just what a voice. Jack Black, speaking of the Pick of Destiny, actually had a funny story, and I think I mentioned it on the show before, but I will say it again. When Dio was coming into the studio to record his part for that movie, he brought his own microphone, but Jack Black and the music producer were like, "No, we got our own microphone here. You can use ours." And Dio was like, "Are you sure?" And they go, "Yeah, yeah, go ahead." So Dio starts singing his line, but then the producer notices that something's messed up. Dio's voice was so powerful, it broke the microphone. It broke two microphones, I believe, and that's why Dio had his own special mic that he brought that could handle his voice. And even then, if you listen to that song that opens up that movie, Kickapoo, there is a point where you can kind of hear like it gets staticky once Dio gets to his most vocally powerful. So I think even then, the recording couldn't really capture his voice as fully as it could, but just one heck of a singer, and apparently just one heck of a really nice guy too. Just one of those rare people in metal that should have been given honors a lot more than he did. Like he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he should be for not only his solo work, but his work with Black Sabbath, his work with Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. The man on a silver mountain. That's him.
No idea who that is.
Okay. I mean, if I played you the song, you would probably...
Man on a Silver Mountain.
Man on a Silver Mountain. Yeah.
Never heard that before.
It's a real song, I swear.
Okay.
But any other thoughts on Dio?
No, just loved video.
Yes, with the Maloik and everything. That is what we call the horns now. It was an old hand gesture his Italian grandmother would use to ward off evil spirits, the Maloik.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right,
All right, let's get yours.
Yes, my last choice. This is I mean, I was already a fan of this band already, but in the sense of, they're a greatest hits band for me. I wasn't, going to rush out and buy every single album of theirs, but hearing you play this on the guitar helped kind of reintroduce me and kind of inspired me to dive into, playlist more and add a little bit more of their music. And it's from the Eurythmics, from their album Touch, and it's Here Comes the Rain Again.
Yes, so this is another song that I perform. Is that why you picked it?
Yes, that was mostly the theme of my list.
Yes. These were... Aubrey plays these on the guitar songs.
Yep.
It's a great song for Portland because it's almost always true.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost always either we're waiting for the rain to come, or the rain has just come, or the rain's been gone and we're upset to see it coming back, or whatever.
Too much rain. But
It's a really simple song. It's really easy to play. It's got a very regular arrangement. Very straightforward.
Yeah, and Annie Lennox, just one hell of a singer. I still remember watching on MTV the Freddie Mercury tribute concert live from Wembley Stadium, and I think anybody who sat there and watched it, whether it live, at Wembley Stadium, or if you watched it on TV, I think everybody to a T would say the best musical performance that day was David Bowie and Annie Lennox singing Under Pressure.
Mm-hmm.
She's got one hell of a voice, and just, thank you for reintroducing me.
Of course.
Yes. Well, how about you dive into your last choice?
Okay, my last choice is again a double. So I have 2 Monkees songs and 2 Motörhead songs, which makes sense because these are 2 of your favorite bands. The Who, none of the Who made it on there. Or the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I'm at a... It's like ebbs and valleys. I mean, there was a time to where for a few years I didn't listen to the Beatles much, and then when the documentaries came back, I started, putting them on the playlist again. I mean, I love those bands, but just right now, not so much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so this is the Motörhead song, The Game, which is very significant because it is the theme song for your novel, which I think should be screenplay. And you've told me in the past that you would like imagine this song playing as the first when the the initial action up to the first explosion happens, right? Like then this song comes on.
It's yeah. I mean, I envisioned it like a Bond movie, and this is after the big action sequence that starts it off, then this person in time to play the game, and then great song. But do you know the wrestling connection?
No.
This song was commissioned by the World Wrestling Federation at the time to be the theme song for Triple H.
Oh.
Who recently got announced as the first member of the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. So there is that. Motörhead actually played at WrestleMania twice live. The first time they did it was at WrestleMania 17, and Lemmy opened it up in front of 60,000 plus fans with "We are Motörhead, we're here to kick your ass," and this song just kicks in. And that's another thing too. Like before getting the gig to write the song and work with the WWE now, Lemmy was dealing with some health issues. He was not the pillar of fitness. Believe it or not, someone who partied and drank as much as he did and took the types of drugs that he did, was not going to be, in the Tour de France or anything like that.
Right.
And he did have some medical conditions that he thought would make it to where he wouldn't be able to make music and tour again. But this song, I guess, helped push him to continue on with Motörhead, and they ended up having at least another decade of great success until Lemmy sadly passed away.
Yeah.
But just one hell of a great song written by Jim Johnston. And I know you don't know that name, but Jim Johnston is responsible for most of the wrestler theme songs from the 80s and 90s that, wrestling fans like me can think of. Not all of them. There was some like the Honky Tonk Man one that was written by Jimmy Hart, the Colonel. But Jim Johnston was responsible for like Ultimate Warriors theme song or Demolition's theme song type of deal. So, he has a little connection with Motörhead now too, but just one hell of a great song.
Yes, one hell of a great song.
All right. And we will have all of this on a special playlist that you will be able to access in our show description right now. It'll be on YouTube, and you can listen to it either on YouTube Music or just YouTube proper. It'll be even better if you have the, premium, so you don't have commercials.
That's right.
Yes. But any other thoughts on the music we talked about today?
Well, I just think it's a great collection of music, and it demonstrates our wide-ranging musical tastes.
Yes, and I also do one like the trip down memory lane that it gave me, but two, that is the importance, I guess, of what music can do. It can help people get closer, for different reasons. Like, you have an emotional connection now to Dio that you would not have had before. Maybe, I don't think you're ever going to be the world's biggest Dio fan in the world, but you now have that emotional connection that wasn't there, and it's all because of me.
That's right. Good job.
All right. So, how about we let one of our friends in the podcast world talk about their show?
Sounds great.
All right. Hang tight, folks.
Have you ever watched the news and wished that you could see something more positive, or looked online and saw all the aggravation and anger and hatred out there and thought to yourself, why can't I just see more positive things in my life? Hi, I'm Mike Rathbun, and I'm the host of the Kindness Matters podcast. Every week, we promise to bring you stories that will uplift you and motivate you and inspire you to see the kindness and be the kindness that this world needs more of. Tune in, the Kindness Matters podcast with me, your host, Mike Rathbun.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Before we wrap things up this week, as we record this the Royal Rumble occurred yesterday. Now, when this episode is released to the general public, it'll be a couple of weeks away, so the Rumble will be a little bit of a distant memory, but it's also going to be something that's going to be available wherever the WWE library of pay-per-views, has its home. It's currently on it'll currently be on Peacock, but I'm sure in a couple of years it'll all go over to Netflix. But it will still be out there, so I think it's more of an evergreen topic than talking about like an NBA's, conference final match.
Right. Exactly.
But the men's and women's Royal Rumble occurred. The women's Royal Rumble was up first and had a couple of fun surprises. Jordan Grace, who used to work for TNA, and I know you have seen her match, but one of her matches before, but I'm sure if I held her picture up and a couple of other women's pictures up and asked you to pick her out, you would not be able to. So you're not that familiar with her, but she is a performer that has been on the wrestling scene for a long time, and just one of those people that I believe should have been in the WWE long before this, but I'm glad that, she finally has a chance to show her work on the big stage, because like she's built, like she's stacked with like muscles upon muscles.
Mm-hmm.
When I see her, pose and flex and everything like that, I think of that wrestling character from Looney Tunes who would flex his arm and then the muscles would just continue to build on each other.
Right.
That's...
What about the one where the muscle goes up like this and then it goes...
Well, that was the same cartoon with Bugs Bunny, because it like went down and then would wiggle like a swing.
Right, exactly.
But it was cool to see her show up. Alexa Bliss made her return after 2 years. Tough to explain her character, and I know you've seen her before, like when we watched the 2018 Women's Royal Rumble. She was in that. Great performer, and it's great to see her back. I think the WWE had a little fun with spreading some false information to wrestling news websites, because a couple of days before this, they did have some stories up on some wrestling news websites that she was sitting out because she wanted a new contract and she wasn't going to perform it unless she got her way, which was BS. They just made it to where she would ultimately be a surprise when she did pop up, and it was great to see her. But the last big surprise, surprise is not a good term here because she did announce this beforehand, but it's a return, I should say. Charlotte Flair. She is back from injury. She entered in at number 27, and she ended up winning the Royal Rumble this year.
She won it!
Yes, Bianca Belair was in there. Sadly, did not get it as well. And I think they did kind of have a little tease for Bianca Belair and her tag team partner splitting up.
Oh.
So maybe Bianca could be a bad guy again at some point. That would be great. I would love to see her whip her opponents with her hair.
Yes.
But Charlotte Flair winning. Usually the number in the Royal Rumble that has won the most Rumble matches, I believe, is the number 27, where Charlotte Flair entered. And if you see a star of a particular stature enter at that particular number, it becomes almost anticlimactic. Because you're like, they're gonna win, a type of situation there. But it was still fun to watch. If anything, I think it shows the continuing evolution that all of the women, not only in the WWE but in professional wrestling as a whole, have given to make themselves so much better. I mean, it's like the women wrestlers in the 80s would not have been able to put on a show like that. Not that they couldn't have, but they were trained in a lot different way than the women today.
Right. And we, as we talked on the show about watching the Glow show, and that really showed the fact that they weren't really trained as wrestlers or as athletes at all.
Yeah, they were trained enough to be able to perform some very basic moves, but it's important for anybody that steps inside of a wrestling ring to understand that even the very basic moves can still put you in the hospital or kill you if done wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, you have to be able to be very good, be a very good athlete to be able to do what they have to do in the ring. But it's a continuing evolution. Like, do I think they have enough female stars that have grabbed the public attention like the males? No, but that's not from lack of talent. That's just people. It's been about a decade since women have been featured like this. And they've come a long way in this past decade. I still think it will take some time.
Well, I mean, like the rest of us, they're all just going back in the closet. They're women, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, anyway, on that note, how about talk about the men's Rumble match?
Okay.
Yes, you didn't have too many surprises in that particular match. John Cena did perform in his last Royal Rumble match, and he was one of the final two in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It was him and main event Jey Uso. Yeet.
Oh, Yeet?
Yeah, the Yeet guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
The Yeet guy.
Yeah, Yeet. I don't get it, but
I don't get the Yeet thing either. I've never gotten it.
Yeah, I'm almost 50. I guess that's why. But,
Yes.
with how they've built up the John Cena farewell tour, because he's already made it clear that 2025 is the last year that he will step foot in a wrestling ring. You thought that Cena was going to win it, but no, Jey Uso won it, and that shocked me. It shocked me, but then it shouldn't have, because the Yeet merchandise apparently is the top selling stuff. Jey Uso's merchandise has consistently been in the top selling of the performers for at least a good year, if not more. And that is one factor that they use in determining who gets pushed and who doesn't. So if you're selling a lot of stuff, that can help you out. I mean, that shows that people are, at least have some sort of a connection with you. So he doesn't have that connection with me. I still see him as the son of Rikishi, the guy who used to put his butt in people's faces. You have to find a move called the stink face. Yeah. But I'm glad that they took that chance. They could have took the safe route and had one of the big names, because CM Punk was in the match, Roman Reigns was in the match, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. They had a lot of big names that people would have been happy that they had won, but they also would have been the safe choice. And this right here, I think, sets up different stories that, with the previous creative regime, they would not have necessarily wanted to tell. The previous creative regime, especially later in that person's career, tried to play it a lot more safe. And playing it safe is just not smart. Mm-hmm. In a creative atmosphere, you got to listen to what the fans want. So apparently the fans want to yeet. So they're going to yeet.
Yay, yeet.
Yeah, overall, the show was fun. I mean, it makes me feel old, because I do remember watching the first Royal Rumble all the way back in 1988 on the USA Network.
Yeah.
And damn, this is the 38th Royal Rumble. And I remember back in my day when it started, and that's me.
Yeah. So, I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel that way about so many things these days.
Like the Super Bowl coming up is going to be Super Bowl 59.
Yeah.
The first one I remember was Super Bowl 20.
Wow.
Super Bowl Shuffle, Chicago Bears. But anyway, Royal Rumble, if you're a wrestling fan, that's definitely one you want to check out. I mean, the WWE over the past couple of years, ever since Triple H took control of the creative, has been making a lot more good decisions than bad. And as a wrestling fan, you can't ask for anything more. So it makes me happy about the future of professional wrestling.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of happy, we've had a birthday in the house.
Yes, we have.
Yes, our little Annie has turned 2.
Oh my gosh. She is a baby kitten. But she's 2 years old. That's amazing.
Yeah, she will always be a kitten, and from day one, I've loved her curiosity more than anything. Like, sometimes I get scared of that curiosity, because she has all the bravery in the world
Mm-hmm.
without realizing that maybe there are some things that I shouldn't be getting into. Like now when I'm taking a bath, she will just hop up on the bath and just walk around, and I'm already in the bath and my hands are wet, and I know the worst thing you can do to a cat in that situation is try and force him off to do something, because I wouldn't want her like scrambling and then falling into the water.
Right.
So I just kind of, I have to kind of let her do her thing, in terms of walking around. But like yesterday, it was funny. She got around, walked around, went by the faucet to where the water was by, and just started smacking at the water. Smacking at the water. And then after I got out of the bath and let all the water drain, I did what I've done with her before. I put the stopper back in and put a little bit of cold water in there up to a point to where there's still plenty of walking space for her in the tub, but she can investigate the water. And she went in there, started smacking a little bit, and then she ended up drinking the water and then got out.
What a cutie. What an absolute gem. It's hard to believe she's getting to be that old. That just shows how old we are. Like, we'll be turning around being like, oh, she's 10. We're 60.
We'll be dressing her up and all that stuff. Go to JCPenney and get photos with it.
Isn't that like it's out of business now?
Or something. I'm sure there's some place that would do it. We'll go to that photo booth at Lloyd Center Mall. That's probably the only thing making money these days there.
Or we could get like boudoir photography with them.
Yeah. Or I could like recreate that famous, what is that? Burt Reynolds Esquire or is it Esquire or Playgirl, to where he's like lying down, he's like naked, but like there's like a puppy on his crotch.
That's Playgirl.
Yeah. Maybe we don't want to do that, Tim. That did sound weird the moment it left my mouth.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not Burt Reynolds, so.
No, and it's not Playgirl.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, darn. No.
We'll somehow, shoulder on without that.
Yeah. My Playgirl days are long over.
Yeah, there's probably a very narrow band there.
Yeah. I think it was about 12 minutes of time in 1997 where I could have done it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, like the other day too, it's funny, she loves the guitars. Like I told you in a text one time that like Mimsy loves us, but Annie feels that she can deduce how to become one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees, especially you, of course, playing the guitars, and she will hop up either on Dusty or the painted guitar that you have here, and she will start reaching into the hole and move her paw on the strings and everything. And when she did it the other day, like her mother was watching it, and her reaction, Mimsy's reaction, was like, "Oh my God, that makes noise! Wow! Is it coming from this wood? Whoa!" And like Mimsy's reactions at times too, but
yeah.
Oh, Annie. And as far as playing energy, she still has that, like, but also too, I've noticed the older she's gotten, the more she has found her manipulative meow.
Oh God.
Because every cat will have it. The only reason cats meow is that they know it can get attention from humans. And Annie just sounds so pathetic. It's like she's really like Oliver Twist. Like, "Please, sir, may I have another? Can I have some more food? Please, mister, I'm starving."
Yeah.
Yeah. But just wonderful addition to our lives, just like her mother.
Yes. Wonderful. Love the Annie.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the cats, on professional wrestling, on music that you want to relay to our friends at home?
Nothing in particular stands out at the moment.
Yeah. The moment I hit stop, and then it'll be like, "Oh, remember that? I was supposed
to I was supposed to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next time, but one of these days too. we're coming up on episode 400 here shortly.
Whoa!
400 episodes of Friends Talking Nerdy. I can't believe that. Also, we're going to be hearing some wonderful stories here in the coming weeks about your trip to Deutschland.
That's right.
Definitely excited to hear and see about that. Hopefully the skies will be clear
Yes, let's hope so.
for the air travel and all that stuff. And then we'll see what the snow is like in Portland. But how about we wrap it up?
Sounds great.
All right. Each Monday, we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
So long.
Bye. Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
On YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.